Happy Thursday, loves. Alright, so what I want us to do before we do our graphing activity is I want to show you how to graph a little bit so that you're not so confused on the worksheet and you guys don't text me and say, how do I do this, because I'm not answering while I'm at Disney. I want you to go to your table of contents. I want you to write page 54. Graphing exponential functions. And today's Thursday, so that means it's the 22nd. And I'll give you a second to write that down. Okay, ready, let's go. So I want you to go to page 53C, where you should have this completed. I want you to flip the page, and we're going to put 54 on the left over here. So leave the right blank. We're going to put 54 over here on the left. And we're not going to call it 54A. We're just going to call it 54 because we should be able to fit everything in. And I want you to write the learning target. Make sure you put the date. And this learning target says, I can graph exponential functions. Now, we've talked about the equations for exponential functions. We've talked about the y-intercept, the base. We've identified parts of it, but we haven't actually graphed it together. You know what they look like, but we haven't made a t-table and graphed it. So that's what we're going to work on in practice today. I'm trying to get my pens out so that we're ready. Okay, so the first example that I want us to do says y equals 3 to the x power. Now, it's not 3 times x, it's 3 to the x power. And remember, you have to have that x as an exponent for it to be an exponential function. Now, when you graph these, the first thing you do is make a t-table. And I personally would use the same numbers every time. I would use -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Now, out here to the right, I'm going to write a process column, and I want you to write this with me as well so that you can see how we get this y value right here. So I'm going to put a box around that, and I'm going to call this our process area. Alright, now in the process area, we're going to show our work where we get our y value. So what we're going to write is we're going to write 3 to the -2 power. Now, what do we know about a negative exponent? It flips it. So that's going to become 1 divided by 3 squared. And what's 3 squared? 9. So it's 1/9. So right here, I want you to write 1/9. Hopefully you can see that a little better. Okay, for the next one, we're going to plug in -1. So that means that we have 3 to the -1. And what do we know about negative exponents? We flip it. So that's going to become 1/3. Now, why didn't I change this denominator here? Because it's to the first power. And anything to the first power is itself. So we're going to write 1/3 here. Alright, next, what are we going to plug in? We're going to plug in 0. So we have 3 to the 0 power. And anything to the 0 power is always what? 1. So we're going to write 1 right here. Then we plug in 1. 3 to the first power is 3. And then we get 3 squared, which is 9. Now, I don't know if you noticed the pattern here, but these are mirror images of each other. 1/9 is the reciprocal of 9. 1/3 is the reciprocal of 3. And it will be that way every single time. Now we're going to graph it. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how is she going to graph that 1/9 and 1/3? Well, we've graphed fractions before. You just go up a baby bit. Now, to graph -2 1/9, you go left 2, up a baby bit. To graph -1 and 1/3, you go left 1, up a baby bit more. 0, 1 is right here. And 1, 3 is right 1, up 1, 2, 3. 2, 9 is right 2, up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then connect your dots. Now, do not let your graph cross the x-axis. It does not cross the x-axis unless you subtract a 1 here, or a 2, or a 3, unless you move this whole function down. Do not let it cross the x-axis, because no matter how far we go left, how many negative numbers we plug in, it's still the reciprocal. You're still flipping it, so you never quite get to 0. It just gets really, 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 really close. So is this an exponential growth or decay? Growth, because it's increasing. And the way you know it's increasing is you go from left to right, and it's increasing. So always look from left to right. Okay, what's your y-intercept? 0, 1. Good. And remember, it's the number in front of the base. So the number in front of that base here is 1. What's our base? 3. Now, who thinks they can tell me? Well, I'm not there for you to tell me. But hopefully, someone can figure out the domain. We've talked about domain and range before. Now, domain are your x values. And we could plug in any x value that we wanted. So this is all real numbers. And that's the symbol for all real numbers. Now, your range is a little trickier. Your range are the y values. Now, we're going to get all kinds of y values out except for negative numbers on this one and 0. It's never going to go below that x-axis, and it's never going to hit it. So your range, you write it like this, and it's really fancy. Y when y is greater than 0. Now, if you need to pause it here, pause it here. Make sure you understand what just happened. All we did was we listed our domain. We can plug in any x value in your range, which is all of the y values. All right, now we're going to do example B. Y equals 1/4 to the x. 1/4 to the x. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a t-table, and we're going to make an x, y, and process area. And we're going to use those same x values. We're going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And then we're going to plug it in just like we did on example A. So we have 1/4 to the -2. So we have 1/4 to the -2. Just fits under that crooked line. Now, negative exponents flip whatever our base is. And if we flip 1/4, it becomes 4 squared. And 4 squared is 16. Good. Now we're going to plug in -1. We have 1/4 to the -1. Negative exponents do what to our base? It flips it. So this becomes 4. 4 to the first power is just 4. And now we get into the magic and the fun. So now we have 1/4 to the 0. And what is anything to the 0 power? That's 1. We're going to do 1/4 to the first power, which is just 1/4. And finally, we're going to do 1/4 squared, which is just 1/4 times 1/4, which is 1/16. Now remember, we're not afraid to graph these fractions because fractions are friends, not food. And we know that to graph a quarter and a 16th, you just go up a little bit. And we have a grid paper to help us. I'm going to have to make this graph a little bigger since I have to go up 16. Alright, so we're going to graph -2, 16. So we're going to go left 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, it was almost on my graph. 16 is right up there. All right, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1. Almost went up to 2. 1 and a baby bit for a quarter, and 2 and a baby bit for a 16th. And now you connect it. This is going to be super, super long, but it's still a curve. And remember, it's going to be an L or a J shape depending on your base. A J shape, like the one in A, is when it's increasing and when your base is a whole number. An L shape is a decrease and when your base is a fraction. Now this time, do we have a growth or a decay? We have a decay. And what's our y-intercept this time? Good, 0, 1. What's our base? One-fourth. All right, and let's talk about domain and range. Now, for your domain, is that your x or your y values? That's your x values. And can you plug in any x value? You can. So that means that it's all real numbers. Now your range. Your range is the y values, or are the y values. Now, did we have all positive y values? Yes, because this is all above the x-axis. Did we ever cross that x-axis? No. Did we ever hit the x-axis? No. So it's y when y is greater than 0. Now pause it here if you need to so that you can see. Make sure you understand what's going on in the paper. Now, your first activity that you're going to do is this one that says 7-5 skills practice. You're going to graph each function, find the y-intercept, state the domain and range, which is what we just did. So if you need to watch the video again or use your notes, do it. You have 8 problems. Then, you're going to have this page. This is graphing exponential functions. You're going to use a t-table. It already has it built and set up for you. On these, do your normal 2 to the x and then multiply your answer by 3. Do 3 to the x, multiply your answer by 2/3. You can do this. You're just multiplying it at the end. And then you're going to graph it. It's going to be front and back. Okay? You're going to turn both of these in tomorrow. I hope you have a great day. Make good choices. Be good people. I'll see you on Tuesday.